Hello everybody, welcome to another edition of art journaling class. We gather twice a month, the first and the third Sunday, generally, of every month to do some art journaling here in Las Vegas. And I'm very excited to be doing these videos and presenting these for anybody who's interested that isn't in Las Vegas to kind of attend. We have a Facebook group. You can join us there and share any projects or any techniques or anything that you pick up from our class. And it's kind of a great little community, so be sure to join us in there. There's always updates there too, and everyone's sharing their projects. Some of the art journaling classes we leave with finished pages, most of them actually, but sometimes we have more technique based or kind of just like little tutorial days where we learn specific things, and that's what today is about. So you may not go away with a finished journal page, or you may, but really today I want to kind of introduce you into stamp making. And I would say stamp carving, except that we're not going to carve all of our stamps. Some of them we're just going to make. So kind of take a quick look. I'm going to go through all these supplies and then show you some how to use them, show you some stamps I've made and some ways to use the stamps I've made. And yeah, then that's what you'll learn. Oh, and today's video is a little bit different than others. Generally, I kind of record what I do and then I speed up the process and record over it with record my voice over it so that I can kind of concentrate more on what I'm saying and get my point across later. So if I go off on a tangent today, I do apologize, but today I'm going to record as I work so that I can better explain to you and show you the point I'm trying to get across as I'm doing it, because this is just a little bit different, more tutorial based, you know, more technique based rather than finished page. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so just real quick before we get into all of these supplies, I definitely want to go over actual like stamps that are already created and show you those. There are foam stamps. Right, these are just made out of foam, and it's generally they are very thick like this. You can use them with ink if you're so inclined, but they really work well with paints like acrylic paints. And just like you see, generally they come they're die cut already, and this is the square pops out, and then there's like there's a C in it. So then you have the C and the negative, and then even if you popped all these out, then you would actually have this like really great big background stamp. So there are foam stamps made literally out of foam. And there are, let's see if I can get that guy back in there. Perfecto. Oh, and these they can come in a big slab like this, or sometimes they come already separated after they've been die cut, and sometimes they're in a package, and sometimes they have a base, and sometimes they're just the foam like this. There are also clear stamps. These are poly stamps, and they generally come like this in like a coordinating set, and they have two pieces of plastic on them. And you actually peel this one of them generally has the image, the indexing, so you can see exactly what your stamp is going to stamp like. And these just peel off, and then they'll stick to an acrylic block, which are these, right? And acrylic blocks come in all kinds of sizes. And they come in all kinds of shapes too, like you can get round ones, you can get ones with curved edges on them, like scalloped edges, and then they come long and skinny, and they come big and fat like this for really big stamps. So these poly stamps, clear stamps, they just cling right to an acrylic block. And you try to find an acrylic block that has, that's an appropriate size, because when you're stamping, see, it's going to wobble if there's too much open space. So you just try to find an acrylic block that has, that is an appropriate size to the stamp you're using. And they all just peel off, and like this one I have not even ever used. And this is a stamp set that I designed for 7 Dot Studio that goes with my Nature Walk collection, the very first paper collection I ever did, so that's pretty exciting. And then to store those, you can just put this back on, put your plastic back on. And what this plastic does is it protects the stamp itself, because these stamps are a little bit fragile the way they're made and the stuff that they're made out of, and they're very sticky, like they'll stick to your acrylic block. So just keep that in mind. You don't want to leave these out in the sun or anything like that. And really any of your supplies you love, you shouldn't leave in the sun, but these will eventually start to deteriorate. So, so just keep that in mind when you've got those stamps. Keep them maybe in a cupboard or something. And then there are, so we've done foam stamps and clear poly stamps. They're called poly stamps. They're made out of this little like squishy material, and once it's exposed to the light, generally, then it hardens up. It's kind of like a UV effect. And then there are rubber stamps. And so rubber stamps are going to come 3 ways as well as some of the other stamps do. Like foam stamps sometimes come with a backing and sometimes don't. This is a wood-mounted rubber stamp. These are all by Viva Las Vegas stamps. This is one of the new ones that I designed. And you can see here, so it has wood on it with indexing. You can see the image. And then in between the rubber and the wood, there's a piece of foam. And this is to help create even pressure when you're stamping. And then the piece of rubber on the back. And so we do all this beautiful trimming for you, and we put it on the wood, and then we put the indexing on the wood to match so you know where you're stamping. Then rubber stamps also come with clean cushion on the back. And so this cushion is sticky on both sides, so that it'll stick to the wood block and to the rubber. But this cushion, it's only sticky on one side where it'll stick to the rubber, and then this side is super smooth, and it uses static. It's called Static Cling Easy Mount Foam, and it's going to stick to this acrylic block. Okay, so those, after they have the clean cushion on them, then they work similar to those. And if you have any of these and there's ever an issue, just that it's not clinging to your acrylic block, wash your acrylic block and wash the back of your stamp. It just has some paper and dust and like skin particles and stuff on it. So there's wood-mounted clean cushion, and then there's unmounted stamps. And generally, these wood-mounted ones are full price. So, for example, if this was $10, it's not. It's actually $12.25. But if it was $10, this one would be $8 of the same stamp. Okay, so this one to get clean cushion would be like 20% off, and then this one would be like 40% off unmounted. But then, of course, all 3 of these are different size stamps, so they'll all be different prices. But then this is unmounted, and this is just the rubber, and you can see it's not trimmed out all pretty like either of these come. You would get it just like this, but then you could clean cushion it if you want, or you could use it any way you want, okay? So then there's foam stamps, poly stamps, and then rubber stamps, and they all come different ways, and that's kind of all I'm getting at with those. I just want to show you pre-made stamps. Then you can make your own stamps, right? So there are all kinds of ways to make stamps, and you can use all kinds of supplies, but I'm going to show you today some of the basic kind of fun ones that I know. To start off, oh, and then there's roller stamps too, and I definitely want to show you those. So like this one here. And they come, this one is a rubber one, but sometimes they come with clear stamps as well. But so then they're on a brayer type handle. And this one you can see is lines, I mean. Right? So if you were to ink this up, then it creates lines, and it's like a big rolling stamp, a repeating pattern. Okay? So, roller stamps. And I say that because you can create roller stamps as well, but you can create all of the stamps. And some of the ways are, for roller stamps, like this is like a lint roller, and it's sticky, and when it's not sticky, then I can just peel it off, and then I have another sticky layer. But it's sticky like this, and you can actually attach already made, like unmounted rubber stamps to this, or you can attach cut out shapes, like out of foam and things like that. And then there's also like things like this. These come 3 in a pack at Hobby Lobby, I think maybe for like $6. They're super adorable little rolling pins. But imagine if you just had a bunch of shapes on here, then you could roll back and forth on whatever project you're working on. We're going to make a stamp out of some foam. We're also going to make some a stamp out of a styrofoam plate today. And that's very cool, and it's a cheap, easy technique, and you get really great details out of this. And they're just so different. You can create stamps out of foam sponges as well. So this is kind of the more dense type here that once you add water, it like really puffs up. And then this is that already kind of just, I don't even know what to call this one, but it's whatever. It's a foam. It's a, you know, a sponge. And then cork. You can make stamps out of cork. You can make stamps out of erasers, right? These are erasers. These are the packs of erasers that I get at the dollar store, 99-cent only store. There's 5 of them in there for 99 cents. And I have seen one other place, I can't even remember where it was, but you could get 6 for $1. But, I mean, it's a really good price, 5 for $1. And especially if you're making smaller stamps, like if you're going to cut these in half, then really you have 10. They also have these big erasers there. They come in a package of 1 for 99 cents, and those are very cool for creating stamps. This is linoleum, but it's a really soft type of linoleum, and because you can carve your stamps out of linoleum as well. And one of the things to remember is that this is also a fine artist thing, a fine artist technique, because it's called block printing, mono printing, and basically you would start with an image and you would stamp your lightest color first, and then you would carve away where you wanted your light color to be. So you would stamp it maybe like 100 times, and you would do your lightest color first, so yellow, and then you would carve away where you want the yellow to be, and then you would maybe do like a golden honey color, and you would stamp that, and then you would carve away where you want that honey color to be, and then you would do the next darkest color. So as you're building up colors, you started with the highlights, and you're working through the medium tones and then into the shadows. And I'll try and find an example of that for you, okay, to kind of interject in the middle of the video. But then you can also, of course, create regular single stamps with it, which is what we'll be doing today, single time stamps, where you're not having to carve things away. And this is like really soft linoleum, and I actually got this in a big sheet from Dick Blick. It's a huge sheet, and I just cut it up as I need it, and I can make squares and all kinds of things. I'll show you some other things. Then you can also get rubber from Viva Las Vegas Stamps, VLVstamps.com. It's just a sheet of rubber ready for carving, and it's already been pressed and cured, and it's ready to go, so you can do that. What am I missing? I think that's it. We will be using an ink pad today and some paint, because different types of stamps are going to require different things. We'll need a ballpoint pen, a Sharpie, and then these are my linoleum tools and linoleum carving tools, and these are by Speedball, and I do really enjoy these. Speedball also makes other products, and they make good brayers and things like that for printing and mono printing. But the way that these work, there's 2 handles here, and if I rattle it, if I shake it, you can hear the rattle, and that's because there are other tips that go with this. Oh, and we'll also be using an X-Acto knife, and the reason I have this separate from these is just because this already comes in one handle and it's ready, but there is a little knife tip that goes with these linoleum handles right here. But then all of these are little carving tools with different profiles to help you get different shapes and to help you dig down deep and keep shallow and things like that. So I keep the 2 that I like the most on hand, like ready to go, and then these are all just in the handle waiting if I ever want them. But I keep this really fine tip here, and I use this for outlining, and then I keep this really wide U to come back and do deeper cuts to kind of finish up and make my stamp whole. So I'm just going to put these back in the end here. Alright, and then there's those and that and that. So before I start getting into the tutorial part, I just want to show you a couple of the stamps I've made before. And I don't have all the stamps that we made in class. I think I must have given a couple away or something, but it's not a big deal. And I don't have a lot, funny enough. I don't have a lot, but that is not a big deal, right? So here, this is the big eraser I was showing you, and this is a work in progress because I still have some parts to cut out, but I was making like a wonky kind of I don't know, polka dot background, but they're all different sizes, and of course they're not perfect circles because that's how, you know, it's handmade, and that's really kind of the beauty of it. But once you've started, you can just ink it up and see exactly what's happening. And I can stamp it right next to that guy, and you can see how it's working out. And I just didn't stamp it all the way down, but you can see like how those are working, right? And then the great thing about this, if it's thick enough, you have to remember, if it's thick enough, then, and I could even carve this edge, but if it's thick enough, I can turn it over and do another pattern on the other side. And I'm working now on making kind of like a chevron pattern happening over here, because if you've ever been in class or seen any of my products, then you know I really, really love me some chevrons, right? So there's that one. And then here's a cork one. And the thing about cork is that it's very, it has a lot of texture, right? Like the compound of it is not very tight. It's not a very tight material. And so it doesn't make for very good detailed stamps, but it makes great, like, just, oh, and apparently it's like kind of crooked, but it just makes great little basic shapes. But that's fine. And this would be really good for kids, and it'd be really good in paint too. And you could just stamp over and over and over, and then you've just created your own like little repeatable pattern and just keep going and going and going. And so this one I did carve with an X-Acto knife. And then these have all been carved with the linoleum, with this. Oh no, I'm sorry, that's a lie. Not that one or that one. But this one, and this one, and this one, and these two have all been carved with this linoleum I was telling you about. And you can see here, depending on how deep you get or how much you care, then you're going to have like striations. You're going to have little marks where you've carved and left pieces. Right? So these little edges I'm talking about. Now I could go in and carve those out and make it neater, but I'm really, really in love with the way it looks because it's got this whole like handmade feel to it. And that's just one, and I plan on making some more raindrops because I really have fun stamping these over and over. And I made this little small one to complement it, and I'll certainly be making like a medium-sized one to go in there too. And you know, it's up to you how detailed and how simple you keep it, because this is X's and O's, and those could be done over and over. Here's one that just says give, right? And the reason I'm showing you this is because you have to keep in mind, when you're writing words, they need to go backwards. So not only do you need to work right to left, but your letters also need to be reversed, okay? So you can't just put like the G-I-V-E and have them legible. They have to actually be backwards as well. Okay, so give, and you can see it stamps well. And then there's things like this too, and this is really great. You can take these and make repeatable patterns out of these, and you're kind of looking at it now and you're thinking, well, how is it repeatable? If you stamp it right beside itself, it's kind of this weird thing. But if you stamp it once, and it depends too on what kind of, what material you're using, what shape you're using, what size you're using. Let's see if I can get this right. Then this is going to create kind of this really fun little square flower. See how cool that is? So that makes like a really great, you know, you just turn the stamp and make an overall pattern, and you don't have to create, like, you don't have to carve this huge square. You can just carve part of it and keep going. And you can do that with radial stamps. You can do that with triangles, with anything, and just, you know, attach them at the sides and then see what kind of a great pattern they make. But this is also great to use just like it is. Like, I could just stamp that and be done. I don't have to make a huge stamp out of it. So those are this type of linoleum here, and then these are actually from the erasers that I was using, and those, and I love these too. I mean, I love them all, right? They're so fun. But Look at how cute that is. And I made a heart and a star, and I don't know, maybe I'll make like a triangle or something to go with them, just so I can show you how easy it is to carve this kind of stuff with the right tools. Okay? So those are some that I already have, or some that are in the works, and then I'm going to keep working now and show you some other ways. So before I get into the carving, I want to show you a couple other easy, kind of simple ones to do. This is, oh, excuse me. This is the craft foam, just from like the Michaels kids section. And it's a little bit thinner, and you can get thicker as well. But, and it works totally fine. It just depends on what you're doing and kind of what kind of look you're going for. But these, all you need is a ballpoint pen or scissors, because you could cut this out into a shape and then stamp it as well, right? But, and you can cut it into a shape and then still carve it also. So if you, let's see if we do like this. And we're not really carving, we're just indenting the foam with this ballpoint pen, right? And at first it looks like we're just drawing on it, but you just wait and see. And I'm just pressing really hard. Don't tear through, because then it won't be any good. But just press hard enough where you're leaving an indentation on the foam, right? And maybe I want shingles on the roof. All right. And actually, these do have a sticky back. So if I wanted to get something and stick them to like a piece of cardboard or something, just to give them like an edge, that would be fine. But I'm actually kind of afraid to stick them to my acrylic block, so. Right, and this is what it looks like when it's been stamped in ink. See, a great little house, because where you made all those indents, the ink can't seep into there. Now, if you were to use like an acrylic paint, it would certainly be like the paint would seep down into those crevices that you've now drawn into here. But you could do anything, like you could do shaped flowers and hearts, and this is just a little house, but you know, you got what you got. So that is with the kids foam and a ballpoint pen. And then the styrofoam, this is a styrofoam plate, just any old plate. It's actually really similar. But with the styrofoam plate, you should use either a printing ink or a paint, because it doesn't pick up like stamping ink very well, but it still definitely gets the job done. And you'll carve it the same way. And it can be anything, anything. And you can leave it huge like this, and this carves like, and I say carve, but it's not really carving, but it indents a lot easier than than this foam did. So just be really careful, because where you press in, you know, you don't want to go all the way through. But the other thing to remember is that when you carve these, you're making more of a positive image, and when you work on these, you're working more on the negative, because it's going to stamp what's relieved, like the relief of your drawing, right? Okay. And I will show you, so this is, it just doesn't hold the ink very well. I should get another sheet out. Let's see, can you see over here? Yeah, okay. I need to go pee. So go pee. Sorry about that, that was my little guy. So I guess it does okay, but you could also use acrylic paint with this, and you can see how this is, like I said, it's a lot wider because you're taking away more of the foam on this than you are on this. Like this could end up being more detailed. And you also have to think about things like this could be die cut or this could be die cut, and you could turn some of your favorite die cut pieces into stamps too. And this is great because it's stackable. So, and not that you necessarily want a stamp that's like this, but if you take all of these, it has an adhesive back. So you can pull the back off and start stacking them. And if you had any shapes, or you can even buy the shaped pieces of foam that are already out there and create kind of big, you know, just stamps that are easier to hold on to. And now I've got this and my stamp pad. Easier to hold on to. And I've got kind of a great like little, whoops, kind of a great little rectangle would be great for mark making. And that's the other thing to remember too, like stamping is, people think of stamping as stamping and mark making as mark making, but that's not necessarily how it is. They really are interchangeable, and the two can go really hand in hand, especially when you're dealing with things like the foam and more like this type of shape, you know, that's a little more basic and not crude, but just not as detailed as some of the fine detailed stamps get. And so now, oh, and real quick, I'm not going to actually demo this part because the cork is really easy, and you just have to keep in mind that cork is really, it's really fibrous. It's not as dense as these are, or even the foam. So when you're carving into it with a knife, of course, don't cut yourself. But really, it's more about the basic shape, and that's what you're going to be able to get out, because you have to kind of saw down, and then you also have to come in from the side. And so it's not very easy to get like insides of shapes cut out, okay? So just keep that in mind. But these are really great too, and especially these are good for kids, like if you have like nieces and nephews or whatever, your own kids, or you're going to kid camp or something, this would be great for them. And this foam works just like the other foams. You can cut it into different shapes, right? Like long skinny triangles, and it sounds crazy, but then you just have this like perfect repeatable, that's the whole point about stamping and mark making, right? They're repeatable shapes, so you're not having to draw the same triangle over and over, and it's just simple. And then look, you could even use the sides, right? And you could dip it in paint and stamp, 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 or you could put it on ink and stamp, 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 or mark, make, mark, make, mark, make, okay? So foam, 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 and then cork. And now I just want to do this demo because I think this is what everyone's going to like the most. And like I said, these are my Linoleum Tools. Now the other thing that comes in really handy is a black Sharpie marker. And it doesn't really matter because you're going to be dipping it in paint or ink anyways. I wouldn't use like your permanent archival pens on this just because they're really nice and you should save them for illustrating and journaling and those kinds of things. But, so here's that eraser, one of these big Office Pro erasers, right, from the 99-cent store. And I was just there the other day and bought a couple more packs. But, and they just cut with scissors, right? Tim Holtz scissors cut through almost everything. And you can see I've already like started to draw the outline because I knew I wanted to make another one that goes with these. And so the reason I'm drawing on it is just so it's easier when I'm carving and I don't really lose sight of where I'm going. And now that I'm actually working on this, no, I guess I do want to do a triangle. I suppose I could do like a stick person or something, but, and it doesn't have to be perfect. You're just getting an idea of exactly where you want to carve. And keep in mind now that it's better to draw the black what you want to leave. Because as you're carving away, you can see what's left and what you'll end up with. And remember how I was talking on my Linoleum Tools, I have one really thin and then one wider one. And the reason is because I outline with the thin one first. And all that does is help create a barrier. When I'm working towards this and I have to clear out all this, I don't actually gouge into my piece, okay? And you can see I am holding my piece still so that it doesn't slip, but these are very sharp and they will carve through your skin and your meat very fast. And it is a little bit scary. So if you need to have like a med kit with you, you know, keep an emergency kit close by, please, by all means do so. Always carve away from you. Never carve towards your body. Never cut towards your body. Never hold the scissors towards your body, okay? Always cut away, hold away, carve away. All right, and I'm just outlining my little triangle. And now I'm kind of at a point. I have to decide if I really want it to be a crisp point, like I have on my stars and my heart. And I guess since I have both of those there, I'm going to. So I'm just going to ever so slightly bring in my borders a little bit more. Oops. You can see I got a little deep there. There. There's my point. That's what I was looking for, right? Okay. Get that guy out of there. And on the top. Okay, so I'm just using that to outline. Now I'm going to outline against my border because that's kind of, these are like cute little border shapes. Whoops. Just keep on carving, carving, carving. And like I said, just outlining at this point. And this really helps so I don't jab into my drawing and what I want to end up with when I'm done. And here's a quick tip. It's a little bit hard for me to tell exactly how close I've got, I think because I kind of have the light very bright. So I'm just going to take a quick dab around the edge to see exactly where I'm at with an ink pad. And it's not too shabby. It looks a little thick, but I actually kind of like that. So now I'm going to go in with a bit wider tool and start carving away between those lines that I've made. And you have to be careful because it is a lot wider. And if you get your own set of linoleum tools, then you'll know, when you're working on them, working with them, as you kind of test them out and figure out which ones you like the best, you'll find out what works for you. This is what works for me, but maybe it won't work for you, and it's really important to remember. Try not to carve towards yourself, right? Oh. And I got in there a little bit, so I'm just going to go back in with my tool and kind of clean up that edge a little. There we go. And I'm trying to decide how much I like these kind of, I can see that they'll stamp. I guess try and carve them out there. Okay, and then really, the best way to know, whoops, I got really deep right there. That's good. The best way to know how it's going to stamp is to stamp it, because you can always carve more out, but you can never put back, right? Just like with anything. It's always easier to take more out and harder to put, and it's almost impossible, especially in this instance, to put anything back. Very cool, I like that. So now I have a little trio, right? And the same is going to go for anything you're carving. Now this one, I really just basically went for it, and I wasn't exactly sure what was going to happen. I'm really glad how that one turned out. These are going to carve the same way as the eraser. This is just a lot softer. So this eraser, think of an eraser, it's like a pink eraser, but it's white. It's a little dense and it's a little hard. So it, definitely start with something like this if you're going to carve, because you'll get good practice, and then you can move to something softer that's gonna carve away quicker. And these are always really great to start on if you need to create a really big pattern. So like this one. Okay, and this came on here. I didn't do this. If you carve, like for practice, if you're going to carve an image that's on here, like words, when you stamp it, it's going to be backwards, right? Because we're turning it over and stamping it. But you could draw like a really big pattern on here and practice that way. Okay, oops, sorry about that. My puppy dog. I don't know, I think that's it. So carving, and you can create stamps out of foam. Oh, you can also create stamps out of like potatoes and apples, anything that has like a lot of dense meat to it. Now those are not going to keep very well, but that's always kind of a fun little thing, one-off to do, if you're a kind of one-of-a-kind artist. That's it, I think. If you have any questions, of course, please let me know, and I'll help you any way I can, alright? Thank you.